Welcome back, golfers. Today we're going to hit a very popular subject, and that is early extension in our golf swing. This hurts a lot of golf swings, so we're going to get into it today. So golfers, early extension, this is something that happens in a lot of golfers' swings. It's something that happens and a lot of golfers fight this feeling, and let's define it right now. Early extension, there's your spine tilt right there, and early extension is just pushing forward through those hips, or the hips are rotating up and your body's getting more vertical, body's moving towards the golf ball instead of towards the target and coming out of our posture. So right now I'm just going to define the video. You'll probably see a lot in other people's channels on how to get rid of early extension, and this is the drill, just a chair drill. You can use alignment sticks also, but basically you see this a lot where we're just getting set up. Put your butt up against back side of a chair, and when we're swinging we want to maintain that touch through the whole motion of the golf swing right up against that chair, and that will keep you from getting out of posture. And that's a simple way to work on early extension. But the problem is there's causes and effects. Typically, early extension is an effect of a cause. So if we don't understand what's causing the early extension, you having to move forward, then that drill right there is only going to put you into a pattern that you're going to get a poor outcome, because you've maybe fixed the early extension, but what caused the early extension is going to cause something else that's going to affect the club face. Today we're going to talk about 6 things that cause early extension and the fixes for them. So the first cause of early extension might not even be your fault. Partially, but might not even be your fault. And that is because our equipment is not set up properly for us. So cause number 1 is our equipment is too upright for the way that we naturally swing. We should actually be flatter in our setup position with our club. So if you're seeing square divots but a lot of early extension, that might mean that you're setting up kind of like this with the shaft, with the lie angle, and then when you're coming into the ball, that club is rising more than what we need, and that's because your body is having to increase its height and stand up, which is bringing that club head and that shaft angle more steeply down towards the ground, and that's what's getting the club to sole, or get a nice square divot. If we stayed in that normal posture and that club was too upright for you and you actually stayed in the shot, what you typically will see is you'll hit a lot of shots towards the heel side, or you'll hit these little bacon strip divots off the heel, or you'll feel a lot of grab on the heel as you're driving through that ground. And that's a straight indicator that your equipment's not set up right for you, and you need to go get your lie angles probably flattened. So the second way to get out of early extension in our setup, we're going to talk in our setup now, is you're reaching too much for the golf ball, meaning the ball is way too far away from you, and your body naturally wants to get your hands in a strong, powerful position. So if you took like a hand weight or a kettlebell and you held it right near your core, you're going to feel comfortable. But if you took that kettlebell and you held it out there, so if you started swinging that, you're going to actually want to feel like you're moving closer to that heavier weight in order to stay comfortable and connected with that power source. Simple fix. We get set up. Make sure your arms are just hanging from those shoulders. And then from there, just be relaxed. You shouldn't feel tension in those shoulders as well. So if you're reaching too much, you're gonna feel those shoulders start pulling the back of it up here. You're gonna feel the shortening of that chest, softening of the core, and that's gonna get you too far away when you're setting up. We want to just let those arms hang and fall so we can use gravity to hit golf shots rather than extension and being out of balance. So stay nice and centered, weight in the middle of the arches, and then just swing from there. All right, number 3, and this is another setup one, and this is something that a lot of golfers do at setup, and that's with our grip. So your lead hand might be okay, but your trail hand is too strong, meaning you're grabbing that club underneath. You're probably seeing that whole thumb, and that V in that trail hand is going way over here instead of up towards that right shoulder. And what that does is, if we get into that position, when we take it to the top of the swing, that face of that club is aiming straight towards the sky, not lining up with our lead wrist. So they're not talking together. So that you see that lead edge straight up to the sky, lead wrist is sitting here. And what we want to see is that lead edge right there and that lead wrist in the same position. So they're matching up. So then when we come through, we don't have to fix it, because if your club is in a very strong position, shut position at the top, you're going to want to try to fix that. And what's going to end up happening is your hips are going to want to get the toe to come more up. In order to do that, it brings your body forward to get it there. If I stayed in posture, it'd be dead shut. So your body fixes it by going there and comes early extending up or forward, and then you come into it, and then you have to try to manipulate down there, but now you're already in early extension. So easy fix, work on that grip. First thing you want to do, get that lead hand, 2 knuckles, right hand, you're just bringing that thumb pad and get it on top of that thumb. So if you're looking down, you're going to barely see the outside edge of that lead thumb, and then that outside pad sits right there rather than underneath. The other way you can do this is just take your hand, put it straight down, point it towards the ground, and then grip it around like that rather than bringing the hand underneath and around. And then that's going to cause being too strong with the trail hand, where we want to be there, not there. All right, number 4. And this is a poor weight shift back into your trail foot on your backswing. So if you're one of those golfers that stays very centered or ends up with weight left, well, that's going to make it difficult for you to transfer through the golf ball, and you're going to try to find some way to create power, which usually comes from the inside part of that abdomen or the glutes, which is a very big power source of the body. And if you're out of position, your body's gonna be like, I gotta create power. And it does it by early extending to try to activate bigger muscles because you're out of position to get you around to the ball. So if you are, which we've talked about in a past video, you have a dominant trail foot. If you would jump naturally and spring from that trail side, you even have to concentrate on this more, because if you watch most trail side golfers, what you're going to see is if you don't put enough weight into that backside, this foot's going to want to drive really hard forward. And you can see that instantly puts us into early extension. So if you think of throwing a ball, think of like a pitcher, and they throw a ball, you roll back and then you move on through. So that idea of the way that you're putting more weight into that back foot, when you're loading into that side, it makes the left side open up first, or the lead side open up first. Then that lead side, once it rotates, it's going to rotate around and it's going to drag the trail side over. But if our weight is sitting too much here, then you're doing the rotation through the lead side rather than from allowing the trail side to help open up the lead side. And then your body's gonna have to figure out how to fix it, and then that's where early extension is gonna happen pretty quickly. So the fix to this is really concentrate on getting weight into that trail side. Feel that hip really pulling back behind you and getting weight back into that trail heel. So another way of thinking of this, wherever this shoulder goes, your lead shoulder, is kind of where you're going to end up getting your weight shift. So if you're there, you can kind of see my weight is sitting right there. If you're there in your backswing, well, now your weight's up here. The fix is to just practice getting more weight into that trail side. Really drive energy into that back foot. And then that, just like throwing the ball, because you have more weight in there, it will slow that hip down and make it have to transition the lower body first and that lead side more open in order to get that drive to first happen. So another video that would be great if you have trouble getting weight into that trail foot in a good way is check out my power transition training drills and try to do those at least a couple times a week. Those drills will really train you on how to distribute weight properly, use your ground forces properly out through that transitional move from the top, and get you opening up the lower body first, and that's going to get you in a better way to sequence the body or stay in posture to drive to the finish and get out of early extension. All right, number 5, and this one is poor sequencing, and it could be poor intent from an internal feeling of what you need to do from the top of the golf swing. That meaning, I'm going to use an alignment stick to kind of demonstrate this. So I'm going to put it through my waist belt right there. So we need directional intention here when we're swinging. So if I'm getting set up to a golf ball and I get to the top of the swing and I say go, and I throw my arms, and you can kind of look right when I do that where the direction of my waist is sitting. It's sitting out in front of me. So now my directional intent, as soon as I start making that swing and that release of the arms off the chest, as soon as I break this angle, and that's going to kind of set the direction of where my body's driving energy towards. So right now you can see it's out in front of me. So if I drive energy early, which you might get an early extension at that point, and you can see my path is working out there rather than back there, which is where I want it. So it's moving forward, which is going to move it into our toes and then get us into early extension. And that's not going to make it so we can hit a golf shot properly. What we want to be able to do is get set up and make our first transitional move through our sequencing, our lower body. Lower body makes it. So you can see now my hips are squared up with my toes. My hands haven't started, just about to start releasing, and now my directional intent is towards the target and not towards the golf ball. So the golf ball is not our target. We want to go that way, so we go that way and through. So first move needs to be lower body, and then we sequence our body upwards, not the opposite way around. So if we're sequencing improperly, it would be top down. You can see the direction of my hips are right now, and I've already started releasing. Now my weight's going to start working forward, and then early extension comes. The fix, and we got to sequence that lower body. Lead knee is going to open up first, right there. That's going to help rotate that hip to get the directional intention of the body to go that way with our hands up here, and then we release the club. So if I hit one here, just watch what moves first. So you can see when my hands were here, the hips were there. So we're doing this to get the direction right, and then we release the club coming through. And that's going to allow our body to sequence properly and get our weight to come out of our trail heel and press out our trail heel as we extend, rather than trying to do it from the toe because the weight's moving into our toe box and early extension's happening. Did a great video on how to extend through the heel. I'll post that one up in the corner so you guys can click on that and watch that too. All right, we made it to my last cause of early extension, and that is in our hip tilt. So meaning if our hip tilt is starting to move forward, which might even be at the beginning, you might already be rounded in our back in that position, a C posture, and our hips are flatter, that's instantly going to make our body want to rise forward because our hips, wherever our hips are sitting, our spine's going to want to follow because it doesn't want to be all curved when you put pressure into it. So it's going to follow. So if our hips are in that position, our body's going to go there as soon as we put pressure into it. So if our hips are in the right position in the beginning, and what I want to see is the center of your hip bone sitting back of the heel and the back nice and straight at setup position. That's going to allow the hip tilt to at least be at the right position with that spine tilt sitting straight. So the other thing I don't want to see is you're already squeezing those glutes together, and we don't want to have that at the beginning either. We brought the chair back in here so we can practice maintaining our hip tilt through the golf swing. So once we get into a good setup position, hips tilted down, nice straight spine tilt, we're going to get set up, and what we want to do is feel our butt stay up against that chair and our hip tilt staying down as we make our transitional move from the top of the swing to our knees squaring back up, right sequencing. But we're going to keep our hips tilted down. And the other thing we're going to do is we're not going to squeeze the glutes yet. We don't squeeze the glutes until we hit the ball. I did a great video on how to fire your glutes. I'll post that one in the corner as well. Watch that one, really good on how to train when to fire your glutes properly. So we get to the top of the golf swing, we rotate first, glutes aren't fired yet, maintain the hip tilt. Now we drive through, we get into that golf ball, that's when the glutes fire, we release through, and we maintain that touch on the chair with our backside through that whole motion of the golf swing. And that first move down is one of those tricky parts to really feel your butt staying and your hip staying tilted down. But once you get the feeling of it, that's when you're going to start hitting those crisper shots, because we're not rising up through, because our intentions and all these fixes that we did, we fixed the causes. So now this should be easier to do. It should allow for us to hit better shots. So I highly encourage all golfers to go through my at-home swing training video, and there's 4 key drills on there. If you're having trouble with early extension, don't try to just do all the work with a golf ball in front of you. Try to do the work at home. There's 200 repetitions in that video. It takes like 10-12 minutes to do, but the pattern change you're going to get is going to be much quicker than if you just sat there, grabbed a golf ball, and thought that I'm going to fix early extension by just hitting more balls. It's not going to happen, and you probably are just putting more pattern of early extension into your swing by practicing the wrong things. Hope this video helped you guys. If you liked anything in here, got anything out of it, think about hitting that like button, think about hitting subscribe. And remember, if your feet aren't working, your swing's not working. I'll catch you guys next time.